What's the one thing everyone wants to grow in their garden? Tomatoes. Let's go to the greenhouse and find out how. Welcome to the greenhouse. I'm Amy Sidran.
I'm Toree Hiebert.
And today we're going to talk about tomatoes. It's tomato time, and we're going to talk to you all about the different things that you hear a lot about with tomatoes.
There's a lot of misconceptions about tomatoes, when you should plant them. You know, like the regular stores like Fred Meyer and stuff, they already have their tomatoes out. But this is not really an awesome time to plant them yet. So we're going to kind of debunk everything and help you guys figure out when to plant them and how to plant them. So like I said, mentioned at Fred Meyer and some of the big box stores, they already have their tomatoes out. And I know people who have bought them and come to us and said, hey, my tomatoes don't look so great. And that's partly because it's just not warm enough yet to be planting tomatoes. So basically kind of the general rule around here is like around Mother's Day or after, definitely after the last frost date, which you can look up online in your area.
Usually about May 15th.
Yeah.
And also, they also say like snow on Silver Star, if
Yes.
Silver Star Mountain kind of hill in the background. And if you do plant them, unless you have a water wall or something to cover them, they are just going to turn yellow and kind of just sit there. They'll eventually get better.
They look sick.
Yeah.
And you'll think, what's wrong with my tomatoes? But basically, you just planted them too early. So tomatoes want warm temperatures. They're like tropical type of plant or a more warmer climate. So when it gets, above 50 degrees at night is a really good time to start thinking about planting them or staying at least around 50 degrees at night. So the next thing is that people are always asking us, well, what does determinate mean? What does indeterminate mean? And how should I choose a tomato? That's usually like a listing that's on the tag, and it'll say, the type of tomato, and then it'll say it's a determinate or an indeterminate. So what that means is that a determinate tomato, the way that I kind of remember this the best, is that it grows to a determined size and then sets flowers and fruits. And indeterminate will keep growing and growing, kind of like a vine. So depending on what your needs are for tomatoes, if you want all your tomatoes to come on at once, because like you're a canner or something like that, then a determinate tomato is a really good idea for you because you're going to have a lot of tomatoes set fruit all at the same time. So we have here a celebrity tomato, which is a determinate variety. So a lot of times the hybrids are the determinate varieties. And then we have an old-fashioned tomato or heirloom called black Krim. This is your indeterminate variety. So these are the ones that you'll see, some great old guy who's got like 8-foot tall tomatoes, and those are typically the indeterminate varieties, and the ones that stay kind of within their cage and they're manageable. And you can see this one already has flowers on it because it's just bred basically to, like I said, grow to a determined size, set flowers and set fruit. So hopefully that'll help you when you're deciding what your needs are. If you want tomatoes throughout the growing season, then choose indeterminate. If you want a bunch of tomatoes all at once to make a giant batch of salsa or to can, then choose a determinate tomato.
So now we're going to talk about different kinds of tomatoes, different varieties. So this is a cherry tomato. As you can see on your screen, this is just one variety. This one's called Sun Gold. It's my favorite. It's an indeterminate, so it's going to get really tall, really big, but it's going to set fruit all summer long, and they're small, they're orange, and not all cherries are orange. They can come in, a variety of colors, yellow, red, dark, kind of white, so many colors. But I like cherries because they're easy to eat. They're like a snack. I pick them, and then my daughter eats almost all of them by the time we even get to the house. So cherries are nice. They're easy to use. You can roast them in the oven, but they're small, they're manageable, they're kind of easy to deal with. The heirlooms are a little bit harder to grow in our climate because we have those cool nights, kind of not necessarily hot days. They get really tall, really lanky, but the fruits are incredible. Like this one is called Aunt Ruby's German, and it's this big green tomato, and it's juicy and it's soft. And heirlooms are very different from the regular tomatoes we buy at the grocery store. They're soft. They should be soft. They shouldn't be hard as a rock. We're kind of used to those grocery store tomatoes that you go there and they're firm. heirlooms are soft. They should be, tender to the touch. They're not rotten, but they're, that's how they're supposed to look.
They're ugly sometimes.
And they're really ugly. They can be like bumpy
Split,
and red,
yeah.
and they crack a lot because of our climate. Another one is the Roma tomato. So everyone always comes to our greenhouse looking for Romas because they're good for canning. They're great for sauce. They don't have a lot of water content. They're kind of what kind of shape would you say those are? They're like
Kind of oblong.
oblong. Yeah, they're kind of long.
Egg-shaped maybe?
Egg-shaped, yeah. They don't have a lot of juice in them, so they are really good for paste, for making ketchup, sauce, doing bruschetta. Lots of versatility in those. And then just the traditional hybrid, we talked about that earlier with the hybrid. And you can kind of see again what this looks like. Again, like a normal, typical tomato you might find at the grocery store, but they come in dozens of colors, again, red, yellow, orange, all different kinds, but they set fruit really nicely, and they will set fruit all at the same time. So if you want to can or do things like that, they're great. And then this is just another variety of heirloom. It's called a black Krim, and again, this one's a black fruit, really beautiful. And in our greenhouse, we have 26 varieties. Other places have 50 varieties of just, tomatoes. So you can go crazy on picking your different or favorite kind anytime, and just keep trying different ones.
So, some of you will be planting in containers because of your space considerations, and that's great. I just have this pot here available because it was harder to have a big one. But, a tomato has a pretty big root system, and so you need to have, I would say, at least a 5-gallon.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah, 5 or bigger,
Yeah.
if you're going to be planting in containers. So you want to have as big a container as possible to allow that tomato to have as much of a root system as it would like to have. One thing that's really cool about tomato plants is there are little hairs all along the stem of the tomato plant, and every single one of those can turn into a root system. So a lot of old timers will tell you to plant your tomato deeper than it is currently in the pot. So the way that we do that is we just pinch off all of these little side branches, and so that you have more stem exposed. If you wanted to, you could even take off this last one here, but I'm just going to leave it on just to demonstrate. And so now you've exposed all of this stem area. So we can get roots growing all along this area, which is a great way for you to strengthen your tomato and just make it healthier and stronger, more resistant to disease, and hopefully better fruit production.
And use less water. The deeper the roots,
Yes,
the less you're
right.
going to have to water it. And tomatoes actually don't need as much water as we think. The less water
Right.
you give them, the juicier and firmer they are. Not as
right.
watery.
And a little bit more of that acidity and stuff that people like too. So the next thing is just to decide how you're going to do it. If you're doing it in a pot, you're basically just going to remove it, and you should see lots of good roots like this. You kind of want to rough up the roots a little bit so that they make good contact with the new soil. And then the cool thing is that, and this is really hard for some people to do because you have this really giant tomato and you're pretty excited about it, but you're actually going to sink it down pretty far down into your pot so that a lot of that stem is getting down under the soil. So it looks sad. So the next thing that you have here, you have a much shorter tomato now. But what that's going to do is that's going to allow this tomato, like Amy was saying, to just build that super extensive root system that's going to allow it to be healthier, more drought resistant, and just able to get nutrients and everything that it needs. So you're going to fill this up to soil. I mean, in this pot, you maybe can't see this as well, but we could go all the way up to here with the soil. If you're planting it in the ground, it's the same thing. So just fill it back in with soil up around that stem, which I know goes against every planting tip that anybody ever tells you. But tomatoes are just a special case because they have that ability to root all along their stem. So you're going to just keep putting that soil up and pack it down as you go.
And also people forget tomatoes, or all plants, grow from the center. So if you see yellow leaves when you're buying a plant or you're in your garden, that does not matter. All those leaves are eventually going to die anyways because the plant actually grows from here. That's how it gets bigger, right? So if this looks really healthy, then we're doing good. If there's yellowing around the bottoms, not a big deal at all.
So you can see I've buried it, probably 4 or 5 inches. And in the ground, you could go, even deeper if you had that. Just making sure that you leave a lot of this top growth to continue growing strong.
Something you always want to think about is how to feed your plants. So plants do need to be fed just like us. This is a really good example of a good all-around organic fertilizer. I like to buy organic because some of the ingredients in these fertilizers include blood meal, bone meal, fish meal, and it's kind of important right now to know where your food is coming from, where your fertilizer is coming from. If it's organic, it's usually a lot safer than if you're buying some of the traditional fertilizers, which you can, that is a little bit more expensive, but if you can go organic, it's always a good way to choose. So with this fertilizer, one of the things you're gonna see that I was kind of showing with this bag is you're gonna see 3 numbers, this 4, 5, and 3. And what that shows you is nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. And so what you want to do when you start your tomatoes is you want to give them a little boost. You've got this plant, it probably had fertilizer in the soil, and then when it goes in the ground, it needs more food, just like us. We need to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner, maybe some snacks, or we get kind of cranky. So when you plant your tomato, you can put this either right in the hole that you make, or you can sprinkle it around there and just kind of mix it in lightly with either a trowel or your hand, and then cover it up. And then I'd say about 3 weeks later, you want to go back in with either the same organic fertilizer or another one that's high in nitrogen, because tomatoes eat a lot. They grow really tall, they set a lot of flowers, and those flowers become fruit, which means they need a lot of food in order to keep doing that. And so if we want to do that, we've got to fertilize.
A great economical way for you to get your plant starts, your tomato starts, and other veggies would be to come to some of the Vancouver School District high school plant sales, where you'll find great product for a really low price, and you'll be helping support our programs.
Yeah, helping support students. Everything is student grown, and we kind of support them, but everything that we do here is for our students. All the proceeds go to our students, to our FFA, to buy curriculum, buy materials, buy more plants. So it's a really great way to support your schools. Thank you for joining us here in the greenhouse today. Again, I'm Amy Sidran.
And I'm Toree Hiebert.
Good luck growing your tomatoes.
Happy tomato season.